Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, David.
Morning, Stella. Good to see you here.
Good to be here. We're going to talk today about addiction. And I'm not talking about your wines and street drugs and all that. I'm talking about the addictions that you all have, your favorite things to worry about, be sad about, give up about, and just feel defeated in general about. Anyone here not have those things? Or think they don't? We're going to cover a general topic at first, and then I will answer one question from each of you, but just one. And I have a purpose in that. I'll tell you later what it would be. An addiction is something created by the ego, and the ego uses it to hold you in abeyance to its will. It frequently appears to be a very innocent addiction, such as loving to interfere in other people's business, figuring that you know more than they know about their own affairs, and therefore they should listen to you, and if they don't, what's wrong with them? I think all of you here have a little touch of that, especially certain people.
No.
The other name for that is control. Oh, he's controlling in a different way. Now, these addictions usually go quite unnoticed by the person who has them, because they aren't something that would prove to be illegal usually, or immoral most of the time, or anything of that sort. So you don't really think of them as an addiction that you have. So consequently, they live quite comfortably in your consciousness. Many of them in your subconscious, where you don't even see them or recognize them as such. Now, all addictions are not bad. Some people have an addiction to helping other people, whether they want the help or whether they don't. Free advice, that's something you have. You willingly give out free advice. Be it good or for ill, you're going to do it.
I'm dependable that way.
And that's another addiction, is being dependable. That's something that you entertain. Yes, you. You are exceptionally dependable. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does get you mired into things that you don't necessarily want to be mired into, doesn't it? And David here, he is addicted to toys.
Really? True. Guilty as charged.
Toys can be anything new, different, something that nobody's heard much about, or an automobile. You're very addicted to automobiles.
Have you seen my new one?
Yes, I have. I have. That's a very nice Cadillac. Of course, though we're here, they're quite common.
It's always nice to know your place in the universe.
Just about everybody who's ever had a love affair with automobiles, when they come here, they always ask, can I have a car, my choice? What they are going to do with it, heaven only knows. And then there are people such as this person through whom I'm speaking who is quite addicted to animals. She prefers the company of animals to the company of people. She would go out of her way to help an animal. Sometimes people, not always people, but always an animal. She would even take in a snake if she was allowed. All of you are addicted to fear. You each have your own fear of some sort. And that's a very powerful addiction because it can strike on any level of your awareness. And a lot of times in your unawareness. And everybody here is addicted to feeling not good enough, not smart enough, not rich enough, not anything enough. And that's another very powerful one, and that is something that is learned in childhood. Not usually by, parents don't usually deliberately teach their children that, but they teach them by example, that they're not good enough.
Is that a core base issue that others build off of?
Oh, yes, not being good enough. If you're the oldest child, then you are made to feel that because you're the oldest, you're responsible for everybody younger than you. And if you're the youngest child, you're made to feel that you're not good enough because you're not as smart as one of your older siblings, and so on and so forth, because it takes many forms. And a lot of you here, well, I'd say probably 65% of you here are addicted to failure. You just know you're going to fail at whatever. Pick a topic and you can be sure that you're going to fail at it. And that failure can mean many different things. Failure to be loved by your spouse, failure to be accepted by your community, failure to never get a promotion because there are others in your workspace that are smarter than you, failure of people finding out your deepest secret, and everybody has a deep secret of some sort. It's not necessarily anything immoral or illegal, it just is something that you would prefer no one know about you. How many of you here have been in a failed marriage? Doesn't make you feel very good about yourself, does it? Even if you think it's the other party's fault, somewhere deep inside you feel that you could have done better. Well, most of you could, but not to the extent that you think. You use many things to make sure your marriage will fail. Failure to learn to cook if you're female. Failure to not supply your family with everything they want if you're male. You just know you're going to fail, and so you do. Whatever you set up yourself to do, believe me, you will guarantee that you will accomplish it, even if it's something you don't want. Now, how many of you have children that you feel you could have done a better job raising? Now, does everybody have a little bit of an inkling as to what they're addicted to? And David, of course, we all know he's addicted to cats.
My favorite. That's my biggest problem. I'm not even working on that one. That just is overwhelming.
Well, did you notice that we sent you a cat here?
I've said hello to a few cats over since I've been
Yeah.
here, yes. Thanks.
Now, let's get into allergies.
Oh, yes.
Anybody here not allergic to something? You don't have any allergies?
I do.
You don't either?
I have an allergy.
Yeah. Well, that's another ploy of the ego. It will pick something that you enjoy and it will make you think that you are allergic to it. Because if you're allergic to it, you can't have it. Just like David's always longed to have a house full of cats, but's never been able to.
It's going to be one of those weekends, isn't it?
Well, I could tell little stories about each of you, but I won't take up the time to do that. I think you all get the drift of anyone here have a sudden insight as to what their addiction might be?
Well, so many of the things that you've said, Stella, apply to all of us.
Oh,
You
yes.
said, so all of those
Yes.
addictions.
In most societies, there is a major addiction that everyone in that society is guilty of. It's not always obvious, but most men are allergic or addicted to power. Some of them are allergic to it too. But every man likes to feel he's in control of something. If he's not in control at home, then he'll be in control at work or somewhere.
So can I just ask a quick question, yes. Stella? So up until just this morning, I was sort of under the psychological impression that almost everything built off of not being loved and accepted. But you're saying that it's really differentiated.
Oh, yes.
And the ego differentiates it?
Yes.
So it's not the reason why I like cars isn't because I have no self-worth, or it might be. It's a separate type of addiction.
It's a separate thing. Well, have you noticed that, and I don't mean this as any way against anyone here, please understand that, most Jewish people feel that they are not accepted by the Gentile world. That seems to be an inborn feeling. And that isn't true.
Would that be labeled as an addiction then? Would that be labeled as an addiction then? To hold on to that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. If you stop to think of the history of Jewish people, other countries, other societies everywhere have always ruled over them in some fashion or another. And it's because they have a victim consciousness. They are the victims. Oh. Could I have a drink of water?
Mm-hmm.
Stella, is that still as true today as it has been?
Yes. A lot of Jewish merchants will change their name enough that they don't sound Jewish. And that's just, thank you. That's just their idea of persecution. Now, this may startle you, but Yeshua was convinced, because he was Jewish, that he would be persecuted. And he was. Was. The whole idea of the crucifixion was his own idea of what he should have happened to him because he was Jewish. I bet you didn't know that, did you?
No.
Everybody thinks it was the will of God. God was sitting up there saying, "What are you thinking?"
I thought the crucifixion was to prove that.
You thought what?
That the crucifixion, that life continued after death.
I still didn't hear you.
That I thought, in my understanding, the crucifixion was the means by which Jesus Christ proved that life continued after death.
Well, yes, it was partly that. But he didn't come to save the world as everyone thinks. He came to teach people how to live in a way that would save the world.
Yes.
But everybody missed that. The Catholics especially love the crucifixion.
I know. Oh. That's so much. They belabor it.
You very rarely will hear a Catholic priest or nun or anything mention the resurrection, but they will always talk about the crucifixion. The Protestants, on the other hand, they go the opposite way. Everything for them is to be born again. Never mind that once is enough, they just have to. Well, it is, isn't it, Margaret?
It is. It was just the turn of phrase that amused me, that's all.
But if you stop to think of any of the world's religions, all of them in some fashion or another are based on sacrifice. They all have someone that they sacrificed, or who sacrificed themselves, whatever. I'm bringing this all to your attention because all of you in this room were handpicked by us. We have your number. Because you all have the same problem of growing. You reach a glass ceiling. And that glass ceiling is your addiction to whatever you think is hard for you to rise above. Now, don't forget, every single negative occurrence that has ever happened in your life, you put there to learn what it had to teach you. The sad part is, not many of you learn what it has to teach you. You all think you were the victim of something or other, or someone, or whatever circumstances, childhood, whatever. No one is a victim, excepting they choose to be. Every mistake, so-called, that you feel you've ever made in your life has been a choice that you chose deliberately to learn what it had to teach you. And then you forgot to remember what it taught you. So you repeat. What do you think would be your most valuable asset in your spiritual growth? What do you think that would be?
Experience. Experience from what you just said and looking at why I would have called it in. Awareness.
Anyone else?
Surrender.
Surrender?
Surrender to God. God's will.
Trust.
The Holy Spirit.
God.
How about recognizing that every single person in this room is limitless? You're all limitless. But how many of you here feel that you are limitless? I mean, truly live like you're limitless. Oh, look at all the hands going up. Each of you harbors a little secret that you are not limitless, that somehow someone, something, circumstance, whatever, has control of your life.
Isn't that kind of our glass ceiling overall?
Yeah. Most people who choose, and this is not a criticism, please know that, most people who choose, especially women, although some men too, but who choose to be a school teacher is because they don't feel qualified to be a parent.
Oh, okay. So it goes back to.
That's why there's so many unmarried school teachers. Because they don't feel qualified to be a parent. So let me take care of everybody else's kid for X number of hours each day. That lets me off the hook for being there at night and wiping runny noses and all the things that parents do. Well, have you given much thought as to what you should start doing about your addictions?
Stop practicing
Hmm?
them. Stop practicing them.
Yes.
Be aware of them when they be aware of them more quickly when they appear.
They show, yeah.
Or see them more clearly in all of their various way they come in underground.
Now, I want you to put these pieces together in your mind. What do you fear most? What is your greatest fear?
To be powerless.
Yeah, which would equate with not being safe. Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, not being safe, not being in control, I guess. Yeah.
What's interesting is the part of the reaction is of not being loved, but I think it's actually of being loved. Like, we're truly afraid of totally being loved. Like, are we good enough to be loved and be lovable and worthy?
Strangely enough, although the world doesn't appear to reflect this, most people are more loving than they are able to accept being loved.
Sure.
That's right.
Many a good marriage ends in divorce because one or both parties do not feel they are worthy of the love their spouse offers them. So they make up reasons why they're not happy. I want you all to give serious thought to your addictions, because they will reveal to you the reason why you struggle with your spiritual studies. All of you here sincerely, absolutely desire greatly to grow spiritually. That's why we picked you, because you're all very dedicated to a spiritual path. And yet that is the very thing that terrifies you. You want to be spiritual, but what will it be like if I am?
There's a fear of success, which is
Yeah.
very. It just can't. It's. I'm afraid of really succeeding
Yes.
at what I want to do,
Yes.
which is somewhat counterintuitive, but it's absolutely there.
It's true with everyone. Do you know how many parents there are in the world that are ruled, their whole lives are ruled by their children, whether the children be little or adults, because the parent is afraid if they go against the wishes of their child, the child will not love them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No. But
Why do you think parents spoil children?
The desire for happiness. Sometimes it seems children are a replacement for maybe yourself, or
Because
they want happiness for them. But is it
well, that's the guise that it comes under. But the truth is, they do not want their children not to love them.
right?
So and the people who spoil their cats and dogs suffer the same thing. You paying attention to this?
I don't have spoiled dogs.
And I don't have spoiled cats, but other than that, we're good.
Well, are we going to talk about denial next?
On the cruise ship?
Well, I'm hoping you all will see where I'm going with this. Because the biggest thing all of you are addicted to, and this is true all around the room, is fear. What have you got to fear? You all believe in God.
Right.
You all believe in divine power. You all believe in blessings, believe in healing and all that. So if there is a God, and he is the loving God that you've been taught that he is, and he's not out to get you like some people in this room think,
Right.
then what have you got to fear from God? What's he going to do to you?
It's not our fear of God, it's our fear of ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah. What if you don't please God? Is he going to send a lightning bolt down, or what's he going to do?
Oh, he would never do that. He would love me.
Perhaps he will take away something or someone you love. That's a possibility. You know,
So if we're not accepting all of the teachings that have been given to us these many years, the fact that that whatever we believe we can receive, that there's no limitations, it's because we fear it.
you fear it, absolutely you fear.
In spite of all the information and the affirmation and the continuing teachings, we still fear to accept that we're limitless.
That's right. Because if you were limitless, then what excuse would you have for not having enough money, not having enough place to live, not having the right car, not having a good relationship?
Whatever.
What would be your excuse for all that if you were limitless?
Mm-hmm.
Think, Lucius. Have you ever seen a tree or a plant, a flower, anything of the earth that lives in fear?
If it does, it looks kind of wimpy.
If you will address your fears, and they are not always what you think.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is the basis for people who are afraid of heights?
Well, the optics on that are afraid of going up spiritually.
What say you?
I would say loss of control. I mean, I get the spiritual.
Fear of falling.
I'm thinking more like the idea if you go up is that there's way far to fall, and so this fear of falling, which to me leans to
Fear of falling from the grace of God.
Mm-hmm.
That's why people are afraid of heights. If they don't go up, they won't have far to go down.
I have a fear of heights.
All right. Well, then pay attention, Peter.
Yeah, there's a lot of, for me, all of this talk centers around, it's wrapped into not trusting. That we have this illusion that is tangible, is real, that we're familiar with. And we've learned a lot intellectually, but we've made great strides in learning more and knowing more. But to make it real, there's a fear there. And so I find myself not trusting that this up here can take care of this down here. So I run to scramble down here to do things. But to me, it's a not trusting is the key word.
And who do you not trust the most?
God. That he will take care of everything, and everything is just as it needs to be. But no, I have to make it the way I think it should be.
All of you here think that you could do a better job of running the world than God is doing. You all do.
Out of false necessity, would you say? Out of false necessity.
Right. Right.
And is that what prevents us from surrendering to the will of God?
Well, if you're limitless, which you are, and if you are all wise, contrary to appearances you all are, then would that be flouting your power in the face of God and saying to him, I'm as good as you are? And heaven forbid you should ever think you're as good as God. But you are.
So in the Course, Yeshua is really inviting us to be partners with him and really challenging us to live the truth and way of being that he came to teach.
Yes.
So the way I'm feeling about what he's teaching is that we, and it seems like a huge leap, but to accept that we are on par with God, with that power. You know, God working through us and owning that is us. And even when he talks about the second coming, you know, I'm starting to understand that that's us allowing God to live through us. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. People are all afraid of God, regardless of how they regard God, whether it's Buddha or Yeshua or doesn't matter. They are afraid that God will see them as a challenge to his power.
It seems that a lot of this fear makes us hide who we really are. We do a lot of hiding of ourselves.
Yeah. If you people could see yourselves the way we see you from over here, you'd all be amazed. The bright, shining lights that you are, none of you think of yourself as a bright, shining light. Oh, you have little moments of thinking that, but not really. When you're standing before a class of children, do you ever think of yourself as a bright, shining light? You're just thinking, how much longer have I got to be with this little
Is the bell going to ring soon?
Yes.
If we're all doing good for the purpose of staying in God's good graces and feeling somehow that by doing good, we're earning his love, how do we make that switch from, obviously we don't stop doing good. We continue doing good, but how do we change the reason behind why we're doing good?
By accepting the idea that you are limitless. whatever you perceive your limitations to be, that is your perception and only your perception. All right. Anyone got one question?
You've chosen the word addiction. In the earth plane here, the addiction, the word suggests that to let go of the addiction, there are several routes, one of which is probably the only one that works is cold turkey. And along with that comes like this withdrawal thing. Analogously, is that what we need to watch out for? Say, okay, we all are addicted to fear. So whatever our addiction is, whether we feel we're going to be set adrift by God or whatever, we say, I am limitless. There is nothing to be afraid of. Do you have some suggestion for when these withdrawal effects happen? Because they're incredibly powerful to pull us back. What?
All right. I would suggest this to all of you. Pick something simple. Something simple, like, well, for example, everyone here drive a car, or just about everybody. Finding a parking place. Instead of saying, angels, find me a parking place, which you all do.
Yes, we do.
Instead of passing the buck over here, say, parking places are abundant for me. I can park wherever I want to because I am limitless, and I will be shown by my higher self where to park my car.
Wow, that sounds... It sounds... It sounds...
No, but Mary, listen. If you start with something small and simple, and you succeed at that, then you get bolder and you pick something more, till after a while you really begin to finally believe that you are limitless.
Is that what happened with Yeshua and when God said, do not use the angels to help you?
Yeah.
It sounds so brazen.
But it's not. How are you going to claim your power if you think, oh well, I can't do that, I might offend somebody?
But just recently we've been taught that they're angels for everything. We've known that for a while, and then they love it when we ask them for help and all these things. So now you're telling us not to ask them.
No, choose wisely what you ask an angel to do, because angels will, with few exceptions, will do pretty nearly anything you ask of them because they love to get involved in your life. Talk about control freaks. Anyway, well, they make you look like a pussycat. Angels love to be in control of someone. That's just the best thing going. So, if you pick something that perhaps you need real strong guidance in some way for some particular thing, asking them for that they have knowledge beyond yours. So, but to ask them to find a parking place, oh, they'll do it. But
why?
You know, that's really a waste of their talent in a way.
And we lose the exercise of empowerment by asking
Right.
ourselves.
Yes. Yes. We always offer what we most need to receive.
Thank you.
Whatever you offer is what you really desire to receive. So that'll give you a good clue. Those of you who like to help people, you are really asking, is there someone to help me? Is there someone that I can trust? That's a big issue with all of you. Trust.
So to summarize, we have these addictions, we declare our limitlessness, and we ask the all that is that for assistance that I know what is the next best. Okay.
Thank you, Stella.
Thank you, Stella,
Thank you,
so
Stella.
much.
Well, I hope you have learned this day.
Abundantly.
Wonderful.
Abundantly.
Good. Be blessed, all of you.
Thank you, Stella.
Don't forget you're limitless. You remember that.